Welcome to Recover Her, the podcast where your healing journey begins. I'm Heather Novak, and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Tracy Oppenheim, a compassionate psychiatrist. Today, we embark on a path of recovery and self-discovery. We are dedicated to inspiring each and every one of you to overcome your struggles and live your best, most fulfilling life. Your recovery starts now, and we're here with you every step of the way.
It's only up from here, 'cause there's no one else that's me.
All right, welcome back to Recover Her Podcast. I'm Heather Novak here with
Hello, Tracy Oppenheim.
Dr. Oppenheim, and also our dear friend, but my dear friend, I love you so much. David Romanelli is our guest here today. Let me tell you a little bit about David. He's written 3, yes, I said 3 best-selling books about the gifts of being alive. Yeah, Dave's Guide to Living in the Moment. I love that
Dave.
one. Happy is the New Healthy. And this one was a favorite of the 3, the life lessons from the oldest and the wisest. He's the founder of a story-driven mindful platform, Meditate On. That's an everyday companion to creating a vibrant, healthy inner life. His work has been featured in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, the New York Daily Food and News and Wine and Newsweek. So welcome, David.
Thank you.
We have
Great to
you
be
in
here.
the flesh.
Yes.
So glad you're here.
How do you feel when she says all of that?
I think, you know what? I feel great because
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody today about feeling your value.
Oh, so good.
and
so
I've
good.
been humble, erred on the side of humility way too many times. So I feel awesome about it.
Yeah.
Hell yes,
Woo! You're a big fucking deal, David
Well, I
Romanelli.
didn't say that. I just
said
feel
it.
good.
I said it. You are. You've always been one of my favorite human beings.
Oh,
so.
thank you.
How did you shift that mindset? It's really important shift. How did you learn to embrace that? Your value.
I just was reading this fascinating article about this new book that came out, this doctor that studied spontaneous healing.
Okay.
And people that had like terminal diagnoses. I don't have that, God
Thank God.
willing. But there are these interesting medically studied cases of people who spontaneously healed, went into remission without an explanation. And one of the things they found was that you have to feel a sense of value in yourself and a sense of inner strength. And it really resonated because I kind of am dismissive sometimes of myself.
Right.
And
Well,
I haven't
we all
done
are.
enough.
We all can be, for sure.
Yeah. So I was talking to someone today and I'm like, I'm done with that.
Yeah,
Doesn't do
done
any
with
good.
that.
Yeah.
Doesn't do any good.
So
I
you
wanna-
literally just said, I'm done with that. I'm not doing this
Working
anymore
on
to
it.
myself. Okay,
So
working
just
on it.
fresh off this conversation.
Okay, cool.
So-
All right, good. Progress, not perfection then. But I
Yeah.
like this new evolved
Yes.
David.
Yeah, the energy feels really good around
It
it.
does. It feels so good.
Yes, I'm
It's
feeling
hard to
empowered.
not feel good, though, when you're around
Thank
him.
you. Thank
It
you.
really is.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm newer on the David Romanelli scene,
Yeah.
right? I know you have you two
I
have
think
a long
we've known
history.
each other for 26 years.
Since 99.
Okay.
Yeah, 25 years.
Yeah.
And what I've found from the time that we've spent together and some of the conversations we've had, and then also having the opportunity, to listen to some of your work and meditate and learn from your storytelling, is there is this, I don't know, there's like this magic that happens where I'm really able to be present with you, and then also really able to like settle into what you're saying. And that has really helped in terms of wanting to get deeper into meditation. And I'm wondering, like, what is that magic? Where does it come from? Like, how do you deliver that?
Well, thanks for saying that. It's just, I think it's vulnerability.
Okay.
And just sharing what's I'm feeling and what's on my heart. And nobody has any time for BS anymore. There's so much BS in our world and so much information to sort through that I think if you're not open and honest and vulnerable, who wants to listen?
Totally.
So that's maybe a superpower for me.
Yeah,
I think
it is a
so.
superpower.
I wouldn't have called it that before I just had this breakthrough though.
You're amazing.
Yeah, but I'm feeling that today. So
Yeah, good.
So we met 25 years ago.
Yes.
When you and Ian and Aaron started a
At One
company
Yoga.
called At One Yoga.
Yes.
And it became a home for so many of
Yeah.
us. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that journey.
Was living in LA after college, was taking yoga classes all the time with teachers who became quite well known. Sean
Sean,
Korn,
I love Sean.
Brian Kess, Jiva Ray. We used to go to Bikram's class in Beverly Hills
Yeah,
before he
we
went
used to-
down that crazy path.
Right. We used to
And-
follow him all around though.
Yeah. And so our mutual friend Ian
Mm-hmm.
Lopayton said, I'm starting yoga studios where there's no yoga, moving to Phoenix.
Thank God.
And I was in LA and I said, Phoenix, why Phoenix? And went and visited and just felt like a really great opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I moved out here and we opened our first At One Yoga Studio, 32nd in Lincoln,
Yep.
September 1998.
My home away from home.
Yeah, and we made it welcoming. And it was at a time when people didn't know the difference between yoga and yogurt.
Yogurt. Right. What am I walking into?
Yeah.
Okay, cute. They've got some retail. What's happening?
Yeah, it was try to create a welcoming vibe and a community.
Yeah. Early on the scene.
Yeah, and people didn't know what it was, and they came in and they were uncomfortable, and we made them feel comfortable. We got rid of the tradition for better or worse, and turned up the hip hop music and advertised on billboards all over Phoenix that said "Breathe."
Hip hop yoga.
Yeah, and people started coming, started showing up. Then we opened 2 more studios, and it became a very vibrant community.
Sure did.
Wait,
Yeah.
And I did not know that community, but definitely like talk to people about it and understand kind of what it meant to people, and also the energy that had. At the time that you started that, did you feel like you knew what you were doing, or?
No, I wasn't teaching yoga. I was just marketing it.
Okay.
And I was hustling all over Phoenix all day long and handing out marketing cards. The funny story is I went in a jewelry place and I said, we're opening a yoga place. Can I give you some cards? And so she gets the guy from the back and she has this New York accent and she's like, oh my God, I'm so excited. This is going to be amazing. Are you going to have chocolate? And I said, chocolate? What do you mean? And she said, she thought I said a yogurt place. So that was the kind of thing I was dealing with. But we hustled and we got a lot of PR.
Yes.
The news came. What is this you're doing here? Well, it's called yoga, down dog.
Wow.
And it was a big story. And we got lucky with the timing and the PR and it's kind of word of mouth. And it got traction. I remember I used to have like one person in my 6 p.m. class. And I was like, I don't know if this is working. And then you keep trying, you keep digging in if you love something and you don't give up. And it started to catch.
Oh,
So,
it bloomed.
yeah, it was great. It was great. It wasn't easy.
No, nothing
It was a
about
lot of-
it.
yeah.
And the community and how it branched off and changed all of our lives. It really did change the trajectory of all of our lives.
Yeah, yoga
David.
can do that. It's powerful.
It, like we were saying earlier, it was another episode we were talking about how yoga tricks you into spirituality.
Totally.
You might want to get in because you want, I said back in the 90s, it was, you wanted Madonna's arms, biceps, you want the chaturanga, toughness.
Yeah.
And you will get that if you keep coming back every single day to Hatha Vinyasa flow.
Yeah.
But what yoga really does is it changes you on the inside out, changes you from the inside out, kind of on a metabolic level.
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
But that community was it was a family. It was a family. It was a beautiful place to be kind of a member of that tribe.
Yeah, and irreverent too. You could,
very much
wasn't
so.
a lot of rules. So, because sometimes the tradition of yoga can be intense and stuffy.
I can't come in late.
Yeah, it can be too much for people. You're coming from your job, you're trying to get there, and you need to walk in late. The only way you can make it. But you're right. Some teachers would lock the door, and we tried to make it, easy for people.
It's funny, that I'm listening to you talk about that and it being irreverent. And I think that there can be real freedom and power in being a little irreverent. And I know for myself, I've had to play by the rules in all different kinds of areas of my life. And once I'm able to shift away from that, and part of that I think is what we were talking about in terms of knowing your value and just really trusting that, I feel like it so much more flows, from that place than rather than being so
Constricted.
Boxed in.
boxed in. Yes.
Let go of the rules a little bit.
Yeah.
So At One was an incredible place. So thank you to the three of you for starting that.
Yeah, we sold it in 2010, and everyone kind of spread it apart.
Yeah.
It became a diaspora. I moved to New York.
Oh, I didn't know that.
In New York City with my girlfriend at the time, and she was younger and wanted to start or experience the Big Apple.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was
What
like,
was
all
that
right,
like?
let's go for it. So we moved to the East Village, which was kind of gritty and very different than Phoenix, and lived there for 5 years. And I kind of lived a bohemian life and wrote a book there called Happy is the New Healthy, which I wrote in all these different coffee shops in the East Village.
That's cool.
And it was inspired by a lady. I was volunteering with this charity in New York City that helped older people in need. And one of the clients was 111.
111?
Yeah, so I got to know her the last 3 years of her life, 108 to 111. And it was pretty awesome.
What was her name?
Ray, R-A-E. Yeah, she lived in a 3rd-story walk-up
Wow.
on the Upper East Side, and she walked down the stairs to get the coffee or the newspaper, until every day till she was 104.
That's
So she started to slow down at 104.
Wow.
Started to slow down.
Yeah. And she had some great wisdom. Like her 3 tips to health and longevity were sex, vodka, and spicy food. So that was really a great, refreshing health tip.
And she died when?
Well,
111.
I'm down
111
I'm down
years old.
with two out of the 3 of those. I'm good with.
Yeah. Let me guess.
There you go.
No spicy food.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was really a cool experience, and kind of followed up with another book about life lessons from older people, and I interviewed older people all over the country, and because I was noticed that my last surviving grandparent was in this old age home, and I would go have lunch with her once a week, and it was super depressing.
Yeah,
So true.
very much so.
And we kind of put older people out to pasture in these facilities. And here I was, like knowing all these wise yoga teachers who were putting like wisdom posts on Instagram at 30 years old. And the 90-year-old Holocaust survivor was dying a lonely death in the retirement facility. So I kind of dug into that for a while and would interview older people and get their wisdom. It was really rich wisdom that you can't hear from like the Tim Ferriss and various personalities. Special stuff, but it was hard work because it required patience and listening. And it wasn't like you were going to get the quick answer, like quick sound bites.
But maybe is that, I mean, I'm not suggesting that you were not a great storyteller prior to those experiences, but did that change the way that you not only would tell stories, but would write stories and record stories for your meditations as well?
That's a great question. I think it taught me that there's a lot of great stories to be discovered from unexpected people
Sources,
and situations.
I love that so much.
Because, it's easy to get the story from the headline topic of the day, but
Right.
everybody has, I was talking about this yesterday. There's 9 types of genius, and everybody has some particular type of genius. It may not fit into the mainstream, but everyone is a genius in their own way. And that's kind of what I learned from doing that work with the elder population.
Yeah.
So,
As you share that, I think, one thing I have deep regret about in my lifetime is, I grew up living with my grandmother. So she was like a second mother, or really actually probably more like a primary mother. My mom was more of secondary. And for the last few years of her life, she was in an assisted living facility in California. I was an adult living here at that point, had my daughter, and this was someone that I was immensely close to and had profound impact on my life. And from a health perspective, she really navigated a lot of challenges with like a lot of chutzpah. Like she had a above the knee amputation at a very, like in her 80s, and they were like, "You're not going to walk again." And she's like, "No, I will." And she had a lot of strength, but once she moved to that assisted living facility, it produced such despair in me. Yet she was the one going through it, and it actually created some distance because it was very hard just to be with what was for her in that moment. And I know that it created some distance. It was just very hard to spend time. And I'm sure that's tied into, grief and my own fear of death and getting older. And plus I had a young child who, didn't want to hang out there. But
it's not an uplifting place.
No, but there were some fun times. She did have a boyfriend named Howard.
Oh,
and
good. Howard.
Occasionally I would get phone calls from the director saying, there's some inappropriate touching going on during Shabbat. So it wasn't all lows, but
Shabbat.
Yeah, I had a guy tell me a story when I interviewed him at one of those facilities, and it was like a frat house.
Totally.
Frat house.
The highest rate of STDs
I was
is in
just going to
Sun
say.
City.
I was just going to say.
It's in Sun City and retirement
Syphilis.
community.
That's
It's like,
amazing.
Yeah.
Get
Go
the,
All
get
bets
it.
are off.
get
at
the
that
penicillin
point.
shot
Yeah,
ready.
why not?
Yeah.
All bets are off at that point.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a naughty old woman.
Oh my gosh.
David.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aging, it's fun. Yeah. That's exciting to think about.
Yeah.
So are you done writing books?
No, I'm working on, I've got 2 topics that I'm pondering right now.
What can you tell us a little?
One that Surgeon General just came out with an advisory that parenting is a mental health situation. And
Situation.
that resonated so deeply. I've got a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, and either I'm not doing something right. Or it's just parenting takes you to the edge. And I think it's a little of both.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of both,
Yeah.
I think.
And I've been talking to other parents who are saying between the technology, trying to create boundaries there, all the sports practices,
The juggling of it all.
homework, and you want to do your best with the boundaries, but then sometimes you break the boundaries,
Right.
and then you're navigating your own relationship, and you want to have a
Absolutely.
healthy love life, and it's just so much to manage in your career.
Oh my God.
And it's just a lot to manage. So when I saw that, it made sense that this is a problem that a lot of people can relate to. So I'm working on a 30-day program that's going to start in January with different health experts on the little things that parents can do in 5 minutes or less to find your peace.
Give me an example.
I know this breathwork guy, Tim Vandervliet, and he teaches you over Zoom how to breathe properly. And it is like the most incredible natural high. It's like you're high on something.
And it's your own breath.
And it's your own breath.
Yeah.
And I really
You're just consciously aware of your inhales and exhales, and you're taking
you
a
hold.
moment
It's
to
a little bit of
pause.
retention. Hold the
Sure.
breath. But he's a great teacher. It's like you could have a yoga class and you feel pretty good. Then you have an epic, legendary yoga teacher, and you just feel like the something, release.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
he's like a great breath teacher. And I never knew that was possible. But
I
this
know.
guy
It's
is
so good.
is profound. So, there's a lady was Wayne Dyer's cranial sacral therapist.
Oh.
And so she's going to teach touch, like how to
Amazing.
touch yourself. But that doesn't, it's not what it sounds
When
like.
I think about
Loving
you.
touch.
I touch myself. Oh, I don't. We've been getting into singing lately.
Yeah. I love it.
It's so good.
So that's
Cranial sacral.
Yeah.
Breath work.
Breathwork. My son leads meditations for kids, and he's going to give feedback.
Oh my God, I love it.
Because somebody told me once that you should
It's
ask
good.
your kids at the
Absolutely.
end of the day for feedback on
Oh
how
yeah.
they're doing.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I know. So
Eh,
yeah, he gives good feedback.
I know he does.
What's some
So-
of his feedback?
He's told me I need to be stricter.
Interesting.
With what?
I don't know. He says I'm too loose on my boundaries.
Okay.
It's interesting feedback.
Create safety, those boundaries.
Yeah. So then we have more in profound guy, Scarlett Lewis. Her son was one of the kids that lost his life in the Sandy Hook shooting. And I've gotten to know her really well over the years. And she started an organization called Choose Love. And so she teaches social emotional learning, has a curriculum that's in all 50 states and lots of schools, because she feels that education in schools would prevent kids like the Sandy Hook shooter be more accepted
Sure.
and understood by their peers. So she's going to teach her Choose Love philosophy, and we're
Right.
actually going to base the pillars of her philosophy for each of the 4 weeks of the program. So so it's just a little 5-minute
and
tip
that's starting
each
in
day.
January.
Yeah.
And it's more geared towards the parents versus
For the parents.
the shifting something between the parent and the kiddo.
kiddo.
It's purely for the parents.
Parents need it. Something you could
Grab on
hold
to.
on to when you're losing your mind or you're just really tired.
Because parenting, like you said, brings you to the edge.
Every day. Every day, you're tired and you're managing your emotions.
You have 2 kids.
Two
What's been
kids.
the most challenging in your parenting experience?
Well, that's an easy answer.
I know. But our listeners might not.
Yeah,
not
my
know.
daughter overcame leukemia when she was 3, and she finished treatment when she was 5.5.
Yeah.
And she's great. But that was very traumatic.
Yeah, it was.
But it's
Left you with a lot of PTSD.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better over the last, I would say, 3 months.
Okay, good.
She goes to
For you or
checkups.
for her?
I don't think she has PTSD.
No, she doesn't at all.
Yeah, I
So
just
for
my wife
you,
and I.
for you guys as her mom and dad, when she sneezes, when she starts to come down with a cold, what does that do to you?
It's not the cold, but if anything hurts,
Right, if it hurts.
that's a 4-alarm fire.
I know.
If she has a fever, 3-alarm fire.
Were your boundaries, like in terms of like parenting, looser with her compared to your son?
I'm just loose generally as a parent. I'm more like the fun friend, and my wife has to come down with the strictness, and that causes problems.
Absolutely.
She's not always been so happy with me
Sure.
about that. So I'm doing a lot better
Okay.
sometimes being that
So
parent.
you're not pitted up against one another.
Right.
You're on the same team.
Yeah.
It's not good cop, bad cop.
Right.
But we were talking earlier on another episode with Sam has been in Tracy's life since he was in 1st grade, 2nd grade.
Wow.
Long time. And Sam would always, he would get so confused when Tracy would say to him often, be careful. Be careful. Just be careful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because that was foreign to me. I'm like, and Sam would look at her and say, why do you keep saying be careful?
Because I'm Jewish, Sam.
Yeah.
Because I'm Jewish.
I have like my kids spray their hands with hand sanitizer like way too much. That's a Jewish thing.
What's the great show we were talking about before we
Nobody
started?
Wants This.
Nobody Wants. We love that show.
I also think, in my own parenting journey, which was complicated by the fact that I'm a child psychiatrist, and so you're swimming around with all of that, perfectionism in mind, and in terms of wanting to do things the best that you can, knowing all these different ways that life can derail you and your kiddo. And I felt like, there were so many like beautiful moments between Jordan and I, growing up, and I was really like so conscious about creating them. And I don't remember how old she was, but maybe she was like 6 or 7. And I asked her about one of my favorite memories. She had no fucking idea what I was talking about, right? Like, so she no recollection of it.
The whole scene you planned.
And it just really helped me relax.
Yeah.
In that, and obviously
the big scheme of things.
Yeah, I'm
That's
being a little tongue in cheek, but because obviously that does have impact. But I couldn't. It really in that moment shifted to make me realize and understand how achievement based I was being in whether it was an interaction I was trying to create or like this thing I was trying to steer her towards. And I'm not even talking about like academic success or this or that, but just this idea of, and it really helped me just chill out and just focus on attunement.
Yeah.
Because I think we, especially in our dumb culture, get, sucked into like, how many sports and where are you taking the kids to and what are they into and their hobbies and their friends and am I like good enough friends with their friends' parents and and really like there's just so much value in that attunement, and that attunement doesn't take place in these big things. It's just these small quiet moments, and that was like such an exhale for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I have a neuroses, generally speaking, as a parent. And I don't want to be remembered like that.
Yeah.
I want to, it just, you get most, I saw a statistic, like most of your 80% of your time or 90% of the time you spend with your kids is till they're 9.
Right.
Or no, not 9, till they're like 15.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it's very little time. So I don't want to remember it as you were so worried all the time, spraying our hands, worried every time we said something hurt, whatever. And then that's the memory. And that, you can't, it can be hard to repair that. So that's really helpful to hear. Absolutely. So yeah, I think we're past the, well, knock on wood, but I think the trauma is getting better and, easier.
Okay.
And I've learned a lot of really hard-earned wisdom through that experience about health and the preciousness of health.
Yes.
And I didn't know that before. You hear it and you pay it lip service, but I didn't really know what that meant.
What did you lean into the most that allowed you to kind of uncover that about yourself? To heal from that traumatic experience.
Well, when you're going through cancer treatment with a 3-year-old, all you want to do is get back to normal.
Just
normal.
And normal is let's brush our teeth. Let's have breakfast. Let's get in the car and go to the park.
Or just kids having energy and hard to wind them down.
Yeah.
So here I am telling you parents need sanity. There's a lot of times where I'm sitting at the dinner table and my kids are underneath the table.
Yeah.
Right.
And
sometimes
having a food fight.
Sometimes we look at each other and we're like, we're losing our minds. But a lot of times we look at each other and be like, well, this is
life.
This is normal, and we're grateful for normal. And so that was really a big, I remember that when she was going through it, it was just like, let's just get to normal.
Whatever the normal is.
Normal's amazing,
Normal is amazing.
And you don't know that until you don't know that.
Yeah.
Or you don't know that until you know that, until you go through something dramatic and intense. And
I always say that. You don't know until you know.
Yeah, yeah. And so it was probably the life lesson that we needed, I mean, I think we were not mailing it in, but complainers. Did you ever see that SNL skit?
Yeah.
The Complainers. Did you ever see that? Oh, you should look that up.
Okay.
It's funny, from the 70s.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
The whiners.
Yeah, the whiners.
Yeah, it was kind of like a little bit of that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, everything.
And yeah. And, it was like the wake up call that unfortunately happened.
Sure.
So I guess we needed it. Because if you can't embrace the challenge that's right in front of you, I think then that's just going to always be a challenge that endures.
So you have a lot of really meaningful relationships, but how did you start to kind of lean into that of just walking through and getting to the other side of your PTSD?
During the treatment or after?
After.
Yeah, there was no
Like
time
now,
during.
where you're seeing some light. What have you done to get here?
I think it's just time.
Time.
There was things I did that were really helpful. Psychedelic therapy
Okay.
was really helpful, but it's also, it doesn't last forever.
Right.
You get a reset.
Yes.
Sure. Helps
But-
that thought process shift
It
gears.
gives you a jump start, but it's really the work you do day in and day out.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of times where I get a trigger, and I've learned I have to go on a walk, and I kind of talk myself through it. Like I get into the side of my brain that knows that the odds of it being something terrible are very, very slim. Because all the time kids are like, this hurts, or kids get a cold or a fever, but I have to talk myself through it. And so I'll go have a walk, and I'll literally talk out loud. If you see me, and I might think I was crazy, but maybe I am a little crazy. But
I like you just the way you are.
yeah, and that really helps. And then just time, getting away farther, putting it in the rearview mirror, and but every day is a little easier, and more back to normal. So, but yeah, so I was going to write a book about that, but I didn't really want to live in that
I was going to
story.
say, yeah.
And who wants to
being-
read a book like that? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think I want to write something that uplifts.
Well, there is a
makes-
happy ending with it.
The happy ending, but still, I don't want to relive the story. Writing a book's a lot of work and takes time.
Yeah,
and I'd be
that
back
makes
in the
sense.
story.
And I think it's so wonderful what you're doing in terms of like challenging yourself and navigating your own fear around, what's your daughter's first name? Cooper's health, so that you're less reactive to her stuff, so that she can continue to develop trust in her body.
Yeah, there's a little of that. My son's more the hypochondriac.
Is he?
It's almost like we worry about him just as much, if not more. So he kind of is like more neurotic about something, because he kind of picks up on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
She's kind of a badass because everything she's been through. She doesn't get phased very easily. He gets phased more easily. So anyway, I'm sure there's something in psychology that you could identify there. But
And then how about for you and your wife? Sounds like you were able to navigate that with between each other to
well, that was hard. That was hard because you can't, it still is, because if one person's worried, you don't want to bring it up with the other, because you don't want to make them worry, because usually you know that there's nothing to worry about. But if one of us is worried, I think we keep it to ourselves, and that's not really healthy, but we also don't want to trigger the other person. So it's a little bit of a tricky dynamic that I think is common with parents who go through something like that. Like we were in Chicago last weekend having an amazing day walking through Chicago. You just the two of us.
Right.
yeah.
Shopping, smoothies, just silly things you do when you get downtime. And the grandma called because my son was playing in a soccer game, and he had to come out because his leg hurt. And that was how my daughter's leukemia started, because her leg hurt. And so your heart stops for a second.
Yeah, it just.
And but
how could you not
I did
be
that.
activated?
He had a hike the day before. That was a really long hike.
Okay.
And he sounded fine, and he wasn't like ill. And it took us both a little bit.
I know, but you're human, so
Yeah.
you would have to allow that thought to seep in.
Yes. Yeah, of course. We were both there together.
But you were able to come back from it.
Yeah, we come
Not
back
like
from
get
it.
on a plane, let's go back.
No, you think about those
You-
things.
I know.
But we were both kind of faced the challenge together. Like if one of us took the call, it would be a tricky process on how to bring that up with the other one because you don't want to ruin their day in Chicago. Anyway, but let's move on because life is so good now.
All right. We're done with that.
Yeah. And then the other book that I'm thinking about writing, one's parenting, and the other is we were in a one of these Waymo cars a couple months ago.
Yeah, I remember
and
this.
it
I love this.
took us through a construction zone and into the wrong way traffic. A Waymo is like a driverless Uber, and it started going into the wrong way traffic. And so there's no driver, so it was kind of scary. And I had to grab the wheel, which makes it stop. And then
And you had the kids with you.
kids and the whole family. And my wife was freaking out. And so you're locked in the car, and you're
Get
not really
out.
sure what to do. And
So what did you do?
Well, hold on. So you're with the fam in this car, and
Yeah.
it just is going the wrong way.
Yeah, down a wrong way in a construction
it got
area.
confused because it couldn't navigate the
Okay.
cones.
Oh my God.
So it stops when you put your hand on the wheel, and then the person comes over the intercom, and you have to tell them like, blah blah blah, went down the wrong way. Fucking open the door.
Yeah, you weren't hit head on.
No,
thank God,
cars
with your
stopped around
family.
us, but it was scary.
Scary.
And
So what did you do? You just like
got out
exit.
Yeah, I was like, you got a credit, and that's it.
A credit.
And so
Have you been back in a
I
Waymo
have been
since?
back, and I take them. My wife won't take them. My kids are kind of on the fence. But what was interesting is it kind of made me think like, okay, we're using all this technology. I mean, I use ChatGPT every day. It's absolutely incredible, like helping me research the books and everything I'm writing. But it doesn't work as well, any of the technology, if you're not the best version of yourself.
Oh yeah, that's
And to be the best version of yourself, those qualities are not qualities you can delegate to technology. It's stuff you got to kind of cultivate on your own. And so I'm also pondering writing that book called The Low Tech Boom. And so those are a few things that I'm kind of fleshing out right now.
okay. I like it.
Yeah.
What have you found in terms of, so you're interacting with Chat GPT often, as am I. Can you tell like a difference when, you're not the best version of yourself in terms of the responses that get generated versus a day when you're really in the flow of things, your flow, like connected to, whatever your source is?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, it helps me with writer's block. But writer's block, the deep down writer's block has to come through a shift internally. The surface level writer's block, like what is the scientific relevance of this idea? More surface
Yeah.
stuff. It's really good at that, but it doesn't help like with the deep shifts. And that's really stuff that I think we have to experience on our own. But the kind of examples of what the low tech boom is, it's like self-compassion. When I give a speech, I ask the audience always if they could close their eyes for 1 minute, and then some of them are like looking at me like I hate this meditation stuff. But I ask them a very simple question: think of the person in the world who loves you the most. Grandparent, a best friend, a kid. Bring that person to mind. And then the question is, can you be that for yourself? Can you show up for yourself with that kind of love and forgiveness and compassion? And it's amazing in a corporate setting, people are locked in when they hear that question. And there's always a couple people who are emotional.
Yeah.
Because we're so hard driving and self-critical and self-doubting and sometimes self-hating. And we're not doing any favors for ourselves. But our society isn't set up to foster self-compassion. And so that's one of the qualities of the low tech boom is, how accepting are you able and willing to be for yourself. Another one is gratitude. That's obviously everyone talks about gratitude all the time. I just shared the story of my daughter, and there are days where I still take everything for granted.
Sure.
And I'm just in a shitty mood because all the things I didn't experience or accomplish. Sure. And then I kind of think about that, and you're in this cancer community, unfortunately, or nobody wants to be in that community. Nope. But I have another friend who was the most supportive friend when I was going through it, and has had 2 kids with cancer. It's super rare. And one of them is in a really dire place right now, and the other one is great. But he's going through a really hard time. And I think of how lucky we are that, my daughter's thriving and alive and well. And I get such a huge reset. And there was a leading expert I read and loved who said that gratitude is more intellectually and morally demanding, meaning that it's really easy to wake up and pay attention at what you have to figure out and what you haven't accomplished and what you have to solve. And it's really hard to wake up and be like, I'm so lucky. So gratitude is just, I think that's a more personal and human muscle to build. It's not really, it's like ChatGPT, help me be more grateful.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. David, I have kind of a weird question, and let's see if I can articulate it well. And maybe it's something you've thought about or will think about and get back to me, because you're such a creative thinker. But in my relationship with ChatGPT, okay, so I find it to be useful, productive, time saving, all of the things we know. But here's a interesting idea I've been playing with is, so what you said when you first came on, right? That you're able to vibe on yourself now in a different way. You can see your strengths and own those strengths. I find that when I'm out of pocket on that, meaning when I am not trusting myself, right? Or my abilities, or maybe I'm dipping into a little imposter syndrome, my relationship with AI shifts. So rather than it being a tool or an extension or like a beautiful expansion of myself, so there could be more time for me to be productive or creative or doing what I need to do, it reinforces. I can use it to reinforce my less than or imposter syndrome. I don't know if that makes sense, what I'm asking. So like, when am I using it as a tool because I'm the shit and I got things that I want to accomplish and I know exactly where I want to go, and I know that I trust my idea, I trust my creativity, I trust myself, and then I can use it in a really different way. But when it's coming from a place of lack, or like it fuels some of those negative
So it's like
feelings.
a mirror for you.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. That's fascinating. I think I can relate to that. On days I'm writing a fiction book that I started 25 years ago, and I'm coming back to it because it stayed with me. And so it's my writing partner. And there are days where ChatGPT comes up with, I can't stand it.
Yeah.
It's trash. And I think it's from the prompts. I'm not giving it the right prompts. And I think that's probably relates to what you're doing, because it's like, what's that quote about, it's not about the answers you get, but the questions you ask. And so I think I'm coming to life and ChatGPT with the right questions, and you're exploring in a way that is fascinating, and you come with the wrong questions and doesn't feel so fascinating. Maybe that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I felt that too. It's almost like when I come at it from like this problem that I'm trying to solve, or this idea that I'm trying to create, like I'm the driver of it, you know, and I need these tools. It's great, but when it's coming from because oftentimes when I say I don't know, like that's such bullshit because I do know. Yeah. But it's like giving away your power a little bit. I don't know. Let me see if the answers are somehow outside of myself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's not going to give you the answers. It's just going to give you complementary information, but not answers. I don't think it's great at plot points either if you're a writer.
Right.
You got to kind of come up with your own plot points. That's what I found. So that's the deep work.
So pivoting a little bit
Yes.
I love to hear about the books and concepts that are coming for sure in your creative genius and talking about the aids that help get you there
Yeah.
and where we're all moving, whether we want to or not. Get on board.
Yeah.
We're taking the Waymos.
Yeah.
They're all over here in
All
Phoenix.
over.
I mean, I know our listeners are all over, but we have self-driving cars everywhere in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So it's not an unusual thing. But David, you and your family got in and it went down a one way,
Yeah.
a wrong way in construction. And then what do you do when technology, fails you?
Yeah.
But we have so many listeners that have been really curious about Meditate On and about your experience with meditating. And I've told a number of people, well, I've been a religious follower and listener to your daily meditations, and they're so unique because of your storytelling ability. Can you teach us a little bit about meditation?
Well, thank you for asking. Yes, I've been leading these story-driven meditations almost every day, episodic for several years now. And I have subscribers that have their morning coffee and I'm their companion when they wake up.
Yeah, it's delicious.
And it's just a story, either something that's going on interesting in the news.
Right. Can be very relevant for timing if
Yeah.
there's a comet or something's happening specific to
Like yesterday
the
was
Super Bowl or the Olympics.
Yeah, sports, music, the news, not like the news that's political or
It's all
depressing.
feel good,
Feel
though.
good.
Is that intentional? I mean, you're not diving into.
Yeah, I think it plays like a podcast, but feels more like a meditation, and there's time for reflection.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
quiet, peace, and then I come back at the end and tie it all up, send you into your day.
What
Feels
was
good.
yesterday?
The one I'm going to create today, because yesterday there was a congressional hearing about UAPs or unidentified aerial phenomena, like UFOs. I'm fascinated with that.
So cool.
But when it's in
Beam me up.
yeah, it's a congressional hearing, kind of makes it more grounded in reality. And they said some fascinating things, I think, and hope that in our lifetime, maybe even soon, we'll know that we're not alone. And if you think about like what that would be like to get that press conference
Oh my gosh.
or read that headline and how that would change. And maybe it wouldn't change some people's reality, but I would think it was so fascinating.
Yeah, it is interesting.
You'd think differently about every time you look up at the night sky and all these juvenile wars and disagreements and how people would have to think differently about humanity. So,
Interesting.
yeah. So that's tomorrow's meditation's about that.
Good.
Tune in.
A little sneak peek of what's to come.
If you like to meditate on aliens, that's
Yes.
But how it's formatted, though, you do tell a little really interesting, and I find them to be thought-provoking, but also feel-good stories. And then you give us
centering thought.
a centering thought to come back to as your mantra. And then, 8 to 10 minutes of...
8 minutes.
8 minutes.
Of relaxing music to kind of reflect. Some people, I would like to think they do
Sit
the
with their eyes
meditation.
closed.
A lot of people stop after the story, and I'm not offended. They tell me.
They tell you.
It's fine.
It's such a great way to meditate, though. Just keep listening.
Yeah, it's just
Stick
just
with it.
introduces the
Helpful to drop in that way.
Yeah, I want to compel people to want to get their coffee and start their day somewhat reflective. But you can also kind of get your news story.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and so many people, though, I have been approached by many people. They're very intimidated by meditation.
Yeah.
They simply are like, I can't. My brain does not stop. I don't have time to sit down and meditate. What would you tell somebody like that?
Meet them in the middle.
Okay. What does that
Make
mean?
it feel like they're getting something for their time. It's not just meditative techniques, but some kind of inspirational information that makes for good conversation, something they could chew on the rest of the day, something they might want to share with someone they care about. There's usually something in there like that. So kind of meet them in the middle.
Got it.
And for you personally, in terms of your meditation practice, is there a particular type that you're drawn to?
I like the story-driven stuff. You know, what got me interested in it, as cheesy as this sounds, was the Oprah Deepak meditations when they
I
first
loved
came
those.
out. I was
Those were
living
great.
in a tiny apartment
in
New York City and had like no room. Like I say, like one time I brought home a T-shirt and my wife said, "Where are we going to put that?" You know, and I was losing my mind. And I would listen to these Deepak Chopra meditations, and I hadn't before then really gotten into it. But the way he did it, super mainstream, strike down the middle, made me feel like so relaxed and spacious in my mind. And so I was like, there's a lot of people like me who aren't doing it.
Totally.
Right.
And they feel kind of locked out of their own head. And if I can open the door for a few people, that would be a good endeavor. So
It kind of reminds me of actually where we started with your At One Yoga and kind of like being a little bit irreverent and not like conforming to these specific rules. And I think that's sometimes what steers people away from meditation, because they're trying to practice meditation in a way that maybe a monk is practicing. And that's just not practical for being here present time. So it sounds like you've created like a nice space, like you said, to meet people in the middle and have it feel like familiar enough where they're able just to be with it. It's cool.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're the best.
Thank
Thanks
you guys.
for coming on our
Need to hang
podcast.
out with you all the time.
Yeah, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
We'll
guys.
see you soon.
Yeah, appreciate it. It was fun.